In 2017, Richard Thaler won the Nobel Prize for his work on behavioral finance. One of the topics that I think is very relevant today on this is loss aversion. And what loss aversion is the cognitive bias that says that we as humans feel the pain of loss twice as much as the equal gain. Don't believe me? Let's talk about a couple examples that I'm sure has happened in all of our lives. You ever make a bet with someone for $50 and you lose it and you think, that really stinks. But if you win $50, it's a quick, great, no big deal. It's a nice little win. It's actually what the casinos bank on, because you get into these holes where the pain and the reaction happening in your brain when you lose money in the casinos is so great that you do anything to try to get out of it. You lose $100. I mean, I grew up in Atlantic City, so literally. And so you lose $100 when you would go, and you'd feel like there goes dinner the next night, there goes the next pair of shoes, and it was the worst feeling. You won $100, the next thing you know, you spent it on dinner that night. It was a great little pat on the back, and that was it. But truthfully, this is what happens in your brain. And so when we see times like today where the markets are all over the place, there's inflation threats, there's war threats, and the like, we seem to overemphasize the negative versus the positive. And this is a proof. So what happens in the brain is there's really three things that are affected: the amygdala, which creates fear; the striatum, which deals with prediction error; and the insula, which affects disgust. So these three things combined together make it very difficult, especially on our own, to deal with loss aversion and times of turbulence. So how can we combat it? Well, first of all, this is the beauty. We are trained at Diversified in behavioral finance, and this is one of the beauties, and by studies in the industry, in a lot of regard, the biggest effect a financial planner brings on your investments is the ability to deal through behavioral finance. And why working with someone helps is, you ever try to give yourself advice? It's terrible, right? I always tell people, friends growing up, and buddies of mine, that what would you get when they would, get dumped or something negative would happen in their lives? I said, if this was me, what advice would you give me? And they say, and they give great advice. And I say, well, why not take your own advice? And they go, well, it's different. You don't understand my situation. And it isn't. And the reality is, this is why professionals exist. This is why therapists are out there. This is why any professional is out there in the service world, is because we've seen the situation. We can actually help you parse it away and make it practical and use facts and figures and bring you back to an even keel to make educated, informed decisions and try to combat sort of these areas of the brain that are all over the place. So one, work with a professional, I think, is a great way to navigate this. Two, frame the situation. So I'm a big fan of this, where we slow people down and we get to reframe the situation. Oh, the markets are off 8%, 10% this year. Well, again, if you think about it, the markets have been on a wild ride for the past decade. Last year they were up 16, 20%, whatever they were. And and the year before 20%, and so on and so forth. But we forget that. We forget that to take this ride, you have to experience this. All we remember is the loss aversion comes into play, recency bias, that, oh my goodness, this is the end, and we panic. And so reframing it and working with a professional, I think, are the two biggest ways to handle this, and one that provides a lot of benefit in our clients and just the financial industry. So again, if you take a few seconds and think what's happened the past decade and how you forget all those good feelings or those returns you got in the markets, and now you're overweighting a couple months negative happenings, which is part of the ride, work with someone, because you are falling victim to recency bias. So you don't have to listen to me. Listen to brilliant people who have won the Nobel Prize, like Richard Thaler and others. And hopefully you got a little nugget today. As always, I'm Andrew Rosen, president of Diversified. Stay wealthy, stay healthy, and stay happy, folks. Take care.